Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. That's Joe Smith, and it's not a one-on-one interview, it's a two-on-one interview with Jamie Jackson from The Guardian. How are we doing, Jamie?
Great to be here, never been better. How are you two?
Let's get straight into it, right? It's live, so get involved in the chat and the comments, but first of all, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you. We said this off camera, I'm going to repeat it live on camera. You've not got your loud shirt on, or you're hiding it. You've not got your sunglasses on, and I've just looked on you've not even got your shorts on. What's going on?
Well, the sunglasses are broken, so getting fixed.
All right.
It's a little bit colder now, so no shorts. And a little bit of a hint of a Hawaiian. More to come.
Hint of a Hawaiian. It's like Jay in a pizza parlour.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? We'll let you off then. There's loads of stories to get through, and we will get through more. But make sure, first of all, you are getting involved in the comments and the chat. Make sure you're liking the video. And if you've not done already, make sure you go and check out Jamie's work at The Guardian. We'll start off with Erik Ten Hag, because it's been a bit of a turbulent time for our manager.
Yes.
The pressure has been piling up. A lot of losses. The Brentford game obviously was a win, a last gasp win. What do you think that does for him? How big a win was that for him, and the sort of the pressure he was under?
Yeah, I mean, it's classic, right? Because they obviously tried until the end and got the win. This is Manchester United, obviously. Scott got 2 goals. But let's say those goals don't go in. Not necessarily me, but people might have written up, United lack heart, lack spirit. But, they still have tried. So I think it was great. Obviously, you needed the win. He needed the win going into the national break. But I've got a little bit of an issue with what's his style of play. But in terms of spirit, and he could point to that and say, well, look what we've got. And it's good for the players as well, obviously, because they're trying their hardest. And if they get the rewards, then it obviously propels them on. And I wrote a piece in the week actually saying that at one time, and many of these are still out, he's had up to 16 players out injured, right? That's 3/4 of a 25-man Premier League squad that's named. You know what I mean? So it's like 3/4. That's ridiculous, man. I know in football, and this is basically the thrust of the piece, in football, injuries should not be used as an excuse, but after a bit, it's not an excuse, it's an actual defining factor, right? So he's had that to contend with before you get into, I don't know, the ownership, Greenwood, Jadon Sancho.
Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony, sorry, yeah. So he's got a lot to deal with. And that win, the manner of it, I'm not a United fan, as I always say, but it was good to be there to see that. It was a good experience, and I'm pleased for McTominay. It's easy to say after that, but I don't see why he can't get a run in the team. If you're Ten Hag, and I nearly asked him this, I just think I wasn't awarded a question, but I was going to say, surely a performance like that has to affect your assessment of any player. Like, you've got an idea of who's your first team, who's not. But if you see that happen, you go, wait a minute, not that I've got it wrong about this player, but maybe actually there's something in there that I haven't yet seen in a match, but now I have, and I can harness that, and it might. So, and again, I'm not saying that he should start every game, but I thought Maguire did okay.
No, I agree.
I think he's had a good 2 or 3 games.
Exactly.
Maguire, actually.
He's not useless, this guy.
No.
Right? No one's saying he's like, Beckenbauer or, Rio Ferdinand, right?
Yeah.
But, I don't think he's useless at all. And he was a very important flick on, wasn't it, for the winner?
Yeah,
Maguire, you know what I mean?
definitely.
It was an intelligent header. I was happy for him, So, to answer your question, it's a massive win. I do think it's going to be an up and down season. You're going to get, results like that, maybe 2 or 3, and then not too sure. I think he overachieved last year massively. If he was having this season, last season, right, when he first came in, you'd say, okay, you can understand that. He's walked into an absolute mess. Remember the Rangnick thing and Solskjaer being sacked before him. And then he was, and then he would have his first season this season where he ended up sort of top 4, third, win a cup. You know what I mean? That's. But so he's almost. Well, he hasn't almost. He's overachieved. So I think if you finish top 4 now, you should be absolutely laughing. I know you're Manchester United. I've always got to say that because it's Manchester United. It's not like my team Forest or anything. It's a proper. You know what I mean? But it's where you are. So, I think he's handled it pretty well because he's a human being, right, Ten Hag? All these things we're discussing. There must be sometimes he just thinks, am I cursed a little bit?
Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, so it was good to see. It was good to see actually that I know Maguire started it, but he'd been a player who's out of the team. Then it was like Garnacho came on as a sub and created the equaliser, right? Yeah, because it was like his sort of run and cross, and it pinballed around, and then he puts it in, and then obviously McTominay was another sub. So it worked for him. Sometimes in football, listen, if you ever run bad results, there's obviously a problem. But sometimes in football, you lose a game just because you're unlucky or because the other team is better, not because you're duff and your players aren't trying and all that sort of thing. And I think that there's too much of that in football generally. That sort of like every result has a massive meaning, sort of implication for players and manager. As I say, if you have a string of them, a sequence, that's different, because obviously there's an underlying thing there. And I think my theory at the moment anyway is he's had a lot to deal with, but the major thing is he can't pick his first team or even sort of first 7 because of all the injuries. So, I mean, is it Sheffield United away, isn't it, when we come back? It's got to win there. Well, I think, because, to carry this on, not because he's in any danger necessarily, but just because, just to build on the way it's going. Hoyland's been lost a little bit in this, how good he's been, I think, in this very, very, very sort of difficult situation. Those it's actually 3 goals, wasn't it, against Galatasaray, because 1 was offside. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, take your pick. I mean, I thought the header in a way was as good as the ridiculous run, because I don't know if Rashford was trying to shot. I'll give him benefit of doubt, maybe it was a really hard cross. It came in really fast and he puts it in like that. And he's been lost a little bit at what a positive he's been. So, it could be a little bit mythologised that a team like Manchester United never gives up, but that was proof of it, wasn't it, right? And that's, that's kind of, if you're going to win a game 3-2, maybe that's the best way to do it in added time. I'll tell you what's an interesting stat, which you're probably aware of, but I wasn't at the time. You'd never won a Premier League game when you'd gone into added time trailing. I couldn't believe it.
I thought, because I was at the Bruce Sheffield Wednesday one, I was convinced that was in the 90th minute.
You were drawing them, weren't you? Well, you went into it.
It was 86th minute, when he got off. Right. Bruce got the first one, the 96th minute for the second. But I was because obviously I was 13 at the time, it was a long time ago, but I thought it was both were in injury time.
Yeah, I did actually.
Me was on the watch long. I just want to ask you about tonight, because I've been in a few press conferences over the years with managers like Van Gaal and Jose, where it goes south and they start acting up, they start snapping, they get a little bit difficult. Van Gaal with the mince pies are at the back, 1 minute press conference. Jose with just many times when he just became
pre-season where he was just lamenting his entire
difficult
team
and respect
couldn't get anyone he wanted and all that.
With Ten Hag, what's he been like in press conferences? Does he act like he's under pressure, or does he act the same he has been since he arrived?
It's a good question. I can't really remember. I mean, for example, the Friday presser before this game we're talking about, when he beat, who was he? We were just talking about Brentford. The Friday presser. He walks in there, and obviously he's under a massive amount of pressure because of all the losses. And he was actually, I thought, really, whether he did it on purpose or it's just his natural way, I tend to think it's just his natural way, he was really, really relaxed. So far, the only time he ever sort of seems to bridle a little bit is about injuries. He doesn't like. He's got this thing now. He doesn't like to give away the specific reason for an injury, which is up to him. But in terms of like bigger stuff, proper stuff, like you're a bit duff at the moment, aren't you? He's pretty calm. He seems a little bit or a lot cooler than Van Gaal, obviously also, from the Netherlands, ever was. And again, that's. I think that's. I always say in football, like any sport, you've got if you win, everything about a manager or a player's sort of attributes becomes a positive. If not, then sadly people look at that and say, he's a bit cool, he doesn't care, for example. But so far, but absolutely fine. I do feel like he's had a run of bad luck. People don't want to hear that because it's a professional sport and everyone has that. But I just feel
luck's not allowed to play a part in football anymore. Everything has to be tactics and well drilled, and it's all on the manager. But really, luck is a huge part of football.
The only thing I say about those injuries is they've got this new doctor in, haven't they? The guy who was at Arsenal, and he is looking into why there's been so many. So there might be something there to do with training methods or whatever the heck it is that's causing. Because 16, it's like. Not all, that's a lot, right? I mean, it's a heck of a lot. So why is that? Obviously, 2 or 3 of those were to do with like Anthony having a leave of absence, but he's been without all these players, so he's looking into it. I think they feel that they've had some of it might be self-inflicted. It's to do with whatever practices, some of the injuries. But it's interesting the way he defended Rashford on that Friday press conference, sort of saying everyone United here is with him. I mean, he should be saying that, but it felt like he meant it. I mean, I do hear other stuff that while he rates him as a player, I think anyone might agree with this. He doesn't feel he's the absolute elite forward that he needs, and that's kind of maybe we'll have to cane. But that's fine. He's don't know whether you'd agree with me, but he's a little bit like Raheem Sterling was at City. So he was sort of second banana scoring wise to Aguero, but really important for that City team. And I think maybe that's how Ten Hag sees Rashford as a sort of, which is right. Yeah, he's a wide forward. He's not, he's not necessarily got to be an absolute world beater. But I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a long season. So some of the defeats, the Onana thing. That's not gone great, has it?
No, it hasn't. Obviously the Onana thing couldn't have gone much worse the last few weeks, or the last couple of weeks in particular. The Bayern Munich game was one where you think, okay, that's one goal. Yeah. Then the Galatasaray game was a disaster. Yeah. I mean, I put him at fault for 2 of those goals, and he got away with, the penalty. He didn't get away with. Casemiro got sent off, but that was his fault. It was a shambles. Do you think, from what you gather and from what you've heard, do you think by and large the dressing room is united? The dressing room is with this manager? Yeah. Because that's the first thing, or we can't use the last thing, but a lot of the managers mentioned, like with Jose, with Van Gaal, you hear these rumours that he's lost the dressing room or players are questioning him. Do you think Ten Hag's still got that sort of trust?
I think to be honest, what happens with this sort... So to answer your question, yeah, I think he does. I think what happens is, if you lose a few games, if a team loses a few games, or put it the way around, there's always players who aren't in the team, right? And if you're winning games, it's not a story. No. If player A is not in the team, or sometimes the team's, but it's cheesed off for whatever reason, says, I'm not that, a little bit, because no one, so what? We're winning. But if you're losing, then it's like, becomes more of a sort of that could be a factor as he lost the dressing room. And I think they really, I don't speak to every player, but I managed to get enough of a sample, I feel, to sort of get a handle on it at the moment anyway. And I don't think he's lost the dressing room. There's going to be people in that dressing room, like Jadon Sancho is obviously one of them, who at the moment aren't happy. But a win shuts everyone up, sort of thing. And in terms of whether the club back him, I mean, on the the day after the Galatasaray defeat, I talked to a few people at the club, and they were sort of just saying, and these are people who need to know and do know, he's still our man for us in the long term. Now, I know you can get that and then something happen, but I just don't see it at the moment, because who are you going to get to replace? He had a really good season last season. It's still very early days. He's got a limited budget, right? And you've obviously spent that for this season, really. I don't really see much in January. Then they're all Ten Hag players, more or less. Not all of them, the ones that he's bought. Yeah. So what do you do? It just seems a little bit... I mean, if you lose the next, 5-0, that's a different thing. But I don't know. You can look at other clubs, the obvious ones like Arteta and Klopp. They had time, didn't they?
Do you think they're starting to consider that a bit more? Because I think when you get Jose, it is... Even if he's great, even if we win everything, he's probably gone in 4 years max, probably 3 years. Van Gaal was talking about retiring before he even came to United, so you knew that couldn't be a 15-year thing. I'm not expecting that from Ten Hag, but theoretically, Ten Hag could be here for as long as he's successful. Do you think that we are looking at this slightly differently for a change? Because when you look at all the other managers we've had, there's always been a reason why it might not work. Ollie didn't quite have the experience. Jose blows up. Do you think they genuinely think in 5 years' time he could still be?
The word that was used to me, and I put in my news story, was he is our man for the long term. Now, I don't know how long you think long term is, but that to me says more than sort of 2 or 3 seasons, I would have thought.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think the issue at that club to a certain extent is Arnold and Murta can have all the plans in the world, which they act upon, like get Ten Hag in. But if Joe Glazer, basically, that's who runs it, turns around one day and says, "Well, me and my siblings, because everything else, are unhappy with this," then it can all change. I mean, and that's the same at any club, I suppose, with an owner. But what I'm saying is, there is a sort of he does run it sort of on a day-to-day basis, Joe Glazer. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, via Arnold or whoever it is.
Yeah.
So. I don't think they want to sack anyone there just because they want an easy life and they just want to be. United. To be honest, United's league title now is top 4 for the Glazers. If there was, if you look at those managers who've been sacked, obviously Jose not the same, but Van Gaal went because they won the FA Cup, but he didn't qualify for Europe, top 4. Yeah. And I think that's basically the bottom line or the top line, whatever you want to call it for them. Because a lot of the sponsorship and money just depends on that. I'd love. Well, if United were to finish fifth, out of the Champions League place, because fifth might get you in this season, but say sixth, and he isn't sacked, that'd be great. I'm just not sure if that would happen.
I'd agree. I agree. I think. I know this isn't going to be very popular, but if we did finish sixth, I would stick with him. I would,
me too.
because I think
you've got common sense.
You're still coming into the season after not in the Champions League. It's not if you sack him, bringing a new manager. Suddenly you're in the Champions League.
And you're setting a precedent as well, where if there's any negative or backward steps at all throughout this manager's career at United, he's gone. Yeah. What's that? Yeah, managers have to be able to sort of show an overall incline over a number of years. It's not just like third, second, first, well done. That's not always how it goes.
It was eighth twice, wasn't it?
Klopp finished sixth and struggled and has had years since they won the title where they've struggled tremendously.
I mean, Solskjaer was sacked. It was like a sort of, what was it, November melt? By then it was sort of, I'm not saying he should have been sacked necessarily. I mean, I actually think he should. But what I'm trying to say is it wasn't like, he finished sixth. So that was done, I thought, because it looked like he completely lost the plot.
It was the same with Jose, wasn't it? Jose
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So the one that sticks out for me, because Moyes obviously is Van Gaal. I don't understand why they did that, because he just won the FA Cup, and
was that not?
It was the next day.
Was that not planned? Do you feel though, like, because during that Christmas period where we lost to Bournemouth, Stoke, Norwich, Southampton, I think around a similar-ish time, and there was rumours that Jose was coming in.
So I might have said this on here before, but when he went in there, Mourinho, or when it was very close, I asked his sort of camp. When it was in the lead up to that, I was asking them, how long you've been, and they were like, well, we haven't heard from him for months, and this was like in April.
Really?
So I don't know whether there had been contact at Christmas and it died, what you're talking about. But I was genuinely surprised, and the way I think they were like cheesed off with United about it, at that time about the sort of lack of. I don't really think they wanted Mourinho ultimately. I mean, I think he was like in the end, well, who else are we going to get?
Really?
Yeah, that was kind of.
Yeah, because me and Steve always spoke about this on the brew, because Steve's like, Van Gaal should have been given a third season, and I'll be honest with you, that football, Jay.
Well, yeah.
I love the FA Cup, and I'm glad we won it, and I like Van Gaal as a person.
Sure, yeah.
He's great box office. I used to do the press conference back in the day, and he was always good copying there. And obviously we had the top four and then the FA Cup, but that football was horrible to watch.
I don't know if you saw this, but I went to interview him about it was the May before the pandemic, so 2019, like this sort of hotel in Amsterdam where they have all these sort of suites named after managers, and he's got like the penthouse one. He's got like, it's on the beach obviously, and it's like he's got a house near there. Anyway, he was saying there, because I asked him this, he said, well, I played that way because the players I had, he reckoned it was. Now you tell me whether that's fair enough, because he had Di Maria, for example, who didn't work. I don't know, he was trying to say that's, so he acknowledged that he played stodgy. He wasn't like denying, it was great football. He sort of said that was because of the sort of players we had. But I agree with you, I could not believe how boring it was.
I mean, really we were doing the, United, we stand the fans in, we were doing the quiz in the middle of the game. And everyone around us was joining in.
Seriously?
Because it was like watching. Wow. I didn't have a goal. I was in J stand at the time. Yeah. We didn't have a goal for United down my end for 3 months, from Kyle Walker's own goal till end of October, whenever it was. Because we were 0-0 at half time almost every week.
There was only.
Or losing.
I mean, there will have been more than this, but one game I can remember where he looked like he actually had them going was, do you remember I think it was Spurs, you beat him on a Sunday, and it was the morning when that story had come out about Rooney being knocked out by Barca, and he celebrated.
Yeah, it was brilliant that game.
But you were like really, it's like, oh wow, okay, because, but it was very, very rare.
Wanfield was probably my favourite in terms of the performance, post-Fergie performance.
Right,
that 2-1 flattered Liverpool. Yeah. We dominated that game, and that was Van Gaal. Yeah. And we had the 4-2 against City, where we again, it could have been 5-1. It could have been. He got it absolutely bang on. Yeah,
but that was the thing that always
so many crap teams.
That's what mystified me. How could you play like that against at Anfield, and then be absolutely awful against whoever it was? What's happened there?
It was crazy. The obvious question I'm going to ask you. Because say the obvious one, but it's the one that probably everyone's talking about the most at the minute, is a takeover. There's been rumours, reports, whatever you want to say, that Sir Jim has obviously got this 25% tactic, if you can call it that, of buying 25% of the club with a view to maybe having a full takeover. Do you think that is a likely outcome, that he could end up buying a minority stake? That could be a reality.
I don't know for sure. The last I spoke to their side, it it was still the same. I mean, and this was before that story emerged, so I'm not saying that story's wrong at all. I'm just saying that the last information I had was that he still wanted to be the majority owner, but only by a percentage or a couple of percentage. I mean, as you mentioned the word tactics there, maybe it'd be a tactical thing, a strategic thing to sort of end up, just start off that way and end up. I mean, I'm not, like everyone else, and again, talking for the Sheikh Jassim's side as well. There's just not complete. But that side are more unsure about whether they actually want to sell, whereas Sir Jim's side think they do want to sell. So make of that what you want.
So Sheikh Jassim's side, sorry,
are unsure.
Whether
they actually want to sell it. They've not heard
Group.
from Rain or the Glazers direct for ages, and neither of Sir Jim. The last I spoke to their camps.
Well, obviously, I know if that's the last you spoke to me. But what do you think is going on? What do you think is because surely they can decide. How long does it take to decide whether you want to sell a football club or not?
Yeah,
they've had 9 months.
If you go back to if you go back to the statement, it was a little bit like Liverpool did. It was sort of potential sale, wasn't it?
Yeah,
strategic alternatives.
Yeah, so I don't know whether they're disappointed they've only had 2 bidders and the price isn't what they thought they were gonna get.
Yeah.
Or whether they're looking at it thinking, oh, I wonder what's around the corner. We're like, I don't know about European Super League, but sort of the way money's going, new broadcast deal. But I think you're right. Your premise to your question, I think it kind of has the answer. I'm surprised it's not been sold or is on the way to being sold. It's going to be a year, isn't it? Next month.
Yeah, November, wasn't it? November last year. What are people saying in the comments about that?
So we've got people talking about Louis van Gaal, a lot of positives. Heaven Soul said we're 5 points off Champions League. It can be recovered.
Yes.
We're only 1 point worse off than we were last season or something. I think it's 3.
It's 3, yeah.
It just needs to click together. And it's a good point. And obviously we've lost an extra game in Europe, but we also lost our first game in Europe last season.
Yeah.
And in a weaker competition. So it's not that far off, but obviously losing 3 games in a row, whatever it was at home, isn't great.
But I mean, again, he's not got his half of his strongest players.
No.
It's not. I mean, it's just why do people buy new players to increase the strength of the team if they don't want them to play? This whhole thing about injuries shouldn't be an excuse. I get that, but if it's so many, it's going to have
They can't not do anything.
It's going to be a factor. So if I don't know, Martinez going down, Varane, we can go through them all. It's just like Luke Shaw, it's a big loss.
Yeah.
Well, look at what happened. I know it's different, but look at City when they lost Rodri. I know they've got
De Bruyne.
De Bruyne out as well.
Exactly.
But they lose those 2 players, and they lost 3 in a row domestically, which is unheard of for them. And that's City. Martinez is so important to us. Varane's so important to us. Then Luke Shaw was probably one of our best players last season. You lost all of them at one point at the same time.
Højlund started off injured.
Yeah.
And Nana's having a shocker. You know what I mean? Mason Mount's not really doing it. I mean, you could sort of say he's been tidy, I suppose, but he was injured as well. You can go through them. Oh, there's absolutely loads of them. I mean, I do have issue with it. I don't know. I just felt that who he bought in the summer wasn't the right investment of the sort of limited cash he had.
In what way?
Well, I just felt like he didn't need Mount. He didn't absolutely have to replace De Gea. I get it that he was faulty and at some point you have to do it, but I didn't think that was he's left on a free. He didn't even get any money for him. Excuse me. I just felt the money should have gone, on a sort of central midfielder or I mean, Højlund's looking like he might be good enough anyway, but a definite sort of 25. I know they don't grow on trees, but 25 Premier League goals a season striker. I was just surprised by that. But anyway, we are where we are now, and sport's great. We could be sitting here in 2 months' time, and United could be like 3rd, and we're like, okay, Ten Hag he's come through that and he's actually grown through it, and the team has. It is a bit of a cheesy thing to say, but these moments can actually be a positive if you can come through. I mean, that's why that McTominay thing, going back to the original conversation, that win is massive because you've got to do it. It's all right, you've actually got to do it when it counts, and United did. It was interesting to see McTominay, because obviously they're all hard and professionals, but McTominay afterwards looked like a schoolboy.
Yeah, he absolutely just loved it, didn't he? So happy.
He was overcome. Even someone like that who plays for Scotland is, been around the block. I know he's quite young, but he was like, wow, what's just happened? And that is the magic of football.
I think they need as well the players to realise maybe that, it's not as simple as you have a run of bad games and the manager goes and then you get this sort of inbuilt momentum again, or this excitement of a new manager. Sometimes you have to go, actually no, you just have to fix this. There's no magic pill here.
Ten Hag? I mean, what you said, but what you the same?
I completely back him. I just think if you look at the weaknesses of the managers we've had before, Van Gaal may be aside, but certainly Jose and Ole were clear. Ole didn't really have the experience, maybe would struggle with real top, hardened world-class players in the dressing room because they might not respect him as a manager. Jose has got this thing where he just leaves after 3 years and he's so explosive that no one can sort of hold on long enough. The flame is burning too bright with Jose. And we sort of saw those things happen. But with Ten Hag, he's got a combination where, he's not won the biggest trophies, but he's been consistently brilliant with Ajax. Just won the league every year he could. We're top of the league when the year got disbanded due to COVID. Got him to a Champions League semi-final, and Ajax had fallen to this remember when Ajax used to be the cool team in the 90s? He actually made them very good again. Not just as a joke. They beat Real Madrid, I think, at the Bernabeu as well. He made them a proper team, tactically well drilled. Again, another criticism of Ole.
Yes.
But then he's got this thing where he's quite polite and he sort of backs his players, and he's got a bit of a closed shop like Solskjaer had, where we're all a team, and Jose would Rashford shit and this. So he's got a combination of some of the best bits of through the last manager we've had. And I just think if you're going to stick with someone, that's the guy to do it with. Like, he seems to have the temperament. He's not falling out with everyone, and he's clearly got a tactical side. I know we're not seeing the best football in the world, but we can't look at what he did at Ajax and say this guy doesn't know tactics. It was brilliant with 21-year-olds who were playing some of the best football in Europe. Don't tell me he doesn't know tactics. So I really like him. And again, back to your original point 25 minutes ago, who else would you get? If you sack him, you can't just go, right, that's done. United are fixed. Well, who's going to win us a Champions League? Because I can't think of anyone. You're not getting Klopp or Pep. Who else is there?
No.
So that's my thought. We've got a super chat here from Club 1878 who said, if the Glazers didn't want to sell, then surely they'd accept minority offers. A bid from Jim only works if the value of United can increase to 6 billion by 2026 or something, so it's not worth it, or it's not worth it for the Glazers. The minority thing, that does seem a nice prospect for a sort of middle ground for the Glazers.
Yes,
I wouldn't like that, but
I think
they get to have their cake and eat it a little bit with that, don't they?
I mean, the debt now is up to nearly $1 billion, isn't it? Right, so that's gone up. It used to be just hovering around 5 or 6, right, 100. Yeah. But now it's like, I think they're a little bit. I mean, they have other businesses not rested. I think they actually need some money. I mean, they take dividends out of the club. Kind of why they're in it, obviously, to make that sort of money. So, I mean, if you're Sir Jim, he must be. You'd think he's strategizing this, because if he only, both models really sort of suggested, if he's buying a minority stake, so therefore the Glazers are still the owners, or if he's like 51% owner, but one or two of the Glazers still remain, that's not going to be popular, is it?
No.
I mean, I don't know whether fans would prefer that than Sir Jim Ratcliffe not being involved at all, but I'm just surprised that what I hear from Sheikh Jassim's side all the time is we're not going to overpay. I get that, right? But you'd think if he just wanted to get this done, maybe they have tried this. Maybe he hasn't got boundless amounts of cash, but I'm told the family has. His dad owns Harrods, and that's not even a massive part of his portfolio, for example, right? You'd think that his side would have gone, all right, here you go, here's an extra whatever it take. As I say, maybe they've gone down that road as far. I don't know this because I don't know this. As far as they feel is reasonable, but it just says to me that they want more money. Obviously, the Glazers, and it might just be in this sort of perpetual state for the next however many years. I mean, I don't care who you are. If you ask a slightly different question, I don't think it helps the team, Ten Hag, the employees on the ground at the club, the staff. It just doesn't, because it's an air of uncertainty. And a couple of times towards the end of last season, Ten Hag basically, when we asked him about this, his answer was, "Well, I think you know what I want," which is basically cleared up, which is obvious in a way. But him saying that publicly said to me, he's frustrated by this. Again, we've been told, or I've been told consistently, that even if Sheikh Jassim comes in, for example, because of financial fair play, does not mean that suddenly you're able to buy, Mbappe and whoever it'll be, because of FFP. But I do think it'll make a lot of difference to the sort of stability, and just, if they do what they say they're going to do, they're going to revamp the whole club. I mean, there's going to be a new stadium, as in either reconstructed or pulled down, and a bespoke thing like sort of Tottenham's, but to the nth degree, really beautiful sort of thing. It's the Carrington will be completely. Carrington at the moment, I don't know if you're able to go in there at all recently.
When's the last time we were there?
I went a couple of months ago,
right,
just before the summer.
Last season was the last time I was there.
If when you went in there, you saw the porta cabins. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge now. I think they've got enough space there, the actual footprint, but the way it's done, it's all a little bit cramped. You go in there, it's not sort of like wide open spaces with sort of like the buildings, or it's all. And I think it's for the women's team. They're now on site there, but the sort of, I think if I've got this right, the facility they've got there is like maybe it's not a porta cabin, but it's like a sort of temporary one. It's all a little bit like, dare I say, amateurish, or a little bit sort of.
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean,
so what I'm trying to say, Sheikh Jassim, part of what they it was there in their document, I think, or whatever, the press release. They're going to sort all that out. It's going to be like. Yeah. Beautiful. So even if there isn't a massive amount of new cash, but I think there will be some, by the way. If they do what they're going to do, suddenly your club is not going to be like, if you don't mind me saying it, 10 years behind City or whatever.
No, do you know what? You're right though, Jay, because you remember the old City training ground near Carrington where there's porta cabins and all that. Yeah. And it's like we've gone backwards. And if you're, I don't know, and I don't know what the facilities are like at Chelsea. I went there once years ago. Like if you're Mason Mount, if you're Casemiro or wherever, you might be coming from a club where you go, the training facilities were second to none, and you come to United and you're like, wow. I don't know if that's the case.
No, well, Chelsea's are nice. I've been there relatively recently.
But,
I mean, that was one thing I thought Ronaldo got right. I thought it came out as a little bit of sort of, it's just saying it to win sort of popularity. But, in that exit interview with Piers Morgan when he said, like, nothing had changed and whatever. I mean, it does come across, relatively speaking, it's a little bit of a parochial facility. Character, do you know what I mean? A little bit sort of like.
Well, not much has been done to it over the last 20 years. They've cut down trees, they've put cameras up, they've took them down. They've put floodlights up. They've they've done like it's like they've done a bit of decorating rather than actually rebuilding or revamping the place. When obviously training facilities in the last 20 years have moved on massively, and United are stuck in this sort of time warp.
The good thing I'd say, or the positive thing is, the area of, say, Old Trafford is massive, right? So you've got potential there to make it absolutely beautiful, if you get the right investor in, because it's just that the space there is massive. You know what I mean?
It's just a bit, I know there's these excuses and these reasons put forward, but, the whole UK bid for 2028, you never dream of United or Old Trafford not being one of the host venues. Now they're saying, it's because we don't know if they're going to be renovating. Well, you should know, and it should have been done by now. Yeah. Because we've been crying out for this for the last 20 years.
Exactly, and even the fact that you don't know says it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like I remember I'm old enough to remember Euro 96 when you had games at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I mentioned it the other day.
You had great games and the atmosphere, and it's like all these teams come in and. We had the one with the Olympics where we had the game with the British team, and it's great. And now all that's happening at the Etihad while we're going, we can't have it because we don't know if we're going to fix the leaky roof yet. It just stinks of, like you said, amateurish. It's amateurish.
And where's the 5 and 10 year plan so that we know what's coming up, so they know what we're going to do?
Which goes goes back to my original point about it doesn't help Ten Hag. It doesn't help players that are either there. It's all a little bit like. Well, this is Manchester United, still the record title holders, but wait a minute, look at what the reality of where it is at the moment. You know
it's sad to say, if you've got a youngster and you're not a die-hard United fan, or even if you are, and you've got a youngster who's great at football and City and United want him, there's a part of you that might be thinking, you know what, I'll send him to Manchester City, and I don't take any pleasure in saying that.
Of course you don't. No.
There's, I don't think I could be too harsh on any dad or mum for doing that. Just on the takeover scenario, David Beckham has been thrown into the mix. He gave that little interview, didn't he, in Qatar, and you saw it. Little cheeky one. Yeah, we'll see.
Got a Netflix documentary out.
Yeah, he's not daft, is he, Beckham? Hey, he knows what to do. It's not his first rodeo. He was asked about whether, because he said he knows the right. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I know the right people who could sort this mess out, more or less. He was asked if that's Sheikh Jassim. He said, we'll see, with a little bit of a glint in his eye. Do you see him being part of a Qatari-backed takeover? Because there was rumours or reports that he could be an ambassador.
I tell you what, I don't know. I don't have any hard facts on it. But I tell you what, it'd be odd if he wasn't asked, because if you want, if you're going in there to sort of revamp the club and you want a sort of A-list ambassador who is loved by the fans, I think, He was a heck of a player, underrated, I think, and he's a little bit like a movie star still.
Yeah, his star's very bright still.
Yeah, so I mean, he's the obvious. Well, he absolutely loves United as well, obviously. He was a fan and all the rest, so he actually was. So I would be absolutely staggered if they don't ask him. The only time I've ever had a sit down with him, it was a few of us, it was at the club. I can't remember what the occasion was. It might be actually at the stadium. I'll tell you what, I don't know if ever you talked to him.
Was it the press? Was that the UNICEF? Was it UNICEF thing? Was it the one where because I remember going to a press conference about 10 years ago.
So then us dailies sat with him.
Yeah, but I didn't get invited.
Honestly, I was impressed by it. Did you not? No.
I was on his local radio. I was lucky to be in the room.
Were you in that car?
Yeah, my smart car. They were still right. You can get out now. That's enough from you.
But he was really nice guy. I was really impressed. And I tell you what, it's not always a great indicator, but it's usually a good one. I don't think he's with him now, but his agent he used to have, his PR guy Simon Oliveira, was a really nice. I remember the first time calling up thinking this is going to be like, how's this going to be? It's David Beckham's agent. He must get people. But he was like really, really nice, like over a consistent number of years. Sort of.
That's good.
So I thought that was a good indicator of what a gentleman
It seems like a bit of a tap-in for
exactly.
Any new owner to get David Beckham involved if he's up for it.
Yeah.
And you've got the money, which
you can afford it.
To just get him in some sort of capacity. I feel like that would sort of get a lot of fans on board who might be a little bit resistant to Qatari takeover for obvious reasons.
Yeah, just moving towards some of the player stuff. Sancho, you mentioned it before. There's now talk he could be leaving in January. It's like, personally, my opinion, I don't see how this gets fixed. Ten Hag is sort of harsh on at the best of times, or strict, should we say? And now it's been a month since he spoke, or since whatever.
I was talking to a couple of people at the club about this yesterday. He still feels really wronged, Sancho. So
what do you think he feels wronged about?
Well, that statement. He basically called his manager a liar, and he hasn't retracted that, right? We did though. He said, "Don't believe everything you read," which was on the back of what he's called his own.
He's scapegoat, isn't he? He said I'm a scapegoat.
So I think the only way it gets fixed is if he apologises privately to Ten Hag and publicly. Yeah.
But would that even really make a difference? Because it's still a big thing.
Would it? I think so. Yeah. One of my things about this is maybe it's not that big a deal. Is I don't think he's been that good for you, so I don't understand why he isn't thinking. Okay, he's got principles and all that, but it's not like he's Ronaldo, peak Ronaldo, is it? I don't. It's almost like so this whole thing about. In essence, what Ten Hag said, I didn't think was that bad. He hadn't trained good enough, so I didn't pick him. Okay, you can have an argument, about semantics and should he have said that and was it wise? But unless you want him to sit there and lie or say I'm not going to tell you, if he says I don't tell you, then it's pretty obvious.
That's weird, isn't it? Anyway.
As a journalist, because I've heard this argument being made a few times, Ten Hag shouldn't have done it publicly. But he was asked that question. What would you see a way out of him to get around that?
I swing both ways. I think sometimes he should have just said. He had a muscle strain.
Right, okay.
Right, yeah.
So you're lying now?
Well, yeah.
So there's that, and also,
if
maybe Jadon Sancho says...
Not a lie, but maybe something like...
I haven't got a muscle strain. That's the issue.
So what I'm trying to say is I swing between he should not have said anything that has caused this situation, because I can see why it's backfired on him a little bit, because we're still talking about it now. But then the other thing is, he was honest. And actually, Guardiola, this is the difference. Guardiola said it about Phillips. He said it about Núñez recently. Basically the same thing, actually.
He was harsh on Phillips.
Yeah, but he also said about Núñez, he's not good enough at the moment with, with his feet. But, because they're winning, no one bats an eye. We might notice that he said it. So I don't know. There was some stuff going around, or I got told anyway, and I checked it out, told it wasn't true, that he also wanted Sancho, to apologise to the players. Yeah. Right. Now, when I asked that question, I was told it's not true. Whether that's changed because we're now a month into it, and you've really dug your heels in the Jadon, and you're gonna have to sort of apologise. I don't know. Apparently, that could be correct now. So he's gonna have to apologise. And what I didn't quite understand was he took down his statement, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that seemed to be saying, okay, right, I've overreacted there, flown off the handle because it was basically immediate, and I'm going to apologise. And he hasn't done. So maybe that was a legal thing. Maybe that was taken down because his lawyer said, look, you've basically called your manager a liar. Yeah. This could get a little bit... I don't know that, but I just don't understand otherwise why he's done that without then apologising. Do you think he should apologise? I think he should, because whether he feels right or wrong, he's an employee. It's Manchester United. It's your career. It's not helping you. You're on however much it is a week. Just bite the bullet.
I think it might have gone too far now, though. Because if you apologise now, you're saying, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that, I'm sorry. So why is it taking you a month to realise that? Because if you think, these are my principles, like the old saying, these are my principles, if you don't like them, I've got others. Do you know what I mean?
Sounds like me.
Yeah. You've got to stick, if that's your principle and you 100% believe you're right, then you believe you're right, which is presumably what Jadon Sancho's doing.
If when you have an argument and you say, I didn't mean it, you're back to being not mad again, 24 hours later, at most 48 hours, a week, a month. How long has it taken him to calm down? You think if he doesn't believe what he said, if he genuinely is sorry, you would think he would have realised it by now. It doesn't take you a month to work out whether you said something you didn't mean or not. Surely, that's a long time.
That's why I feel like, even though I would have liked to have seen him, not do statement.
What do you think of him as a player? I just don't understand what happened to the player. I mean, again, we asked him about this before any of this happened, and he just sort of said that Dortmund was, the Premier League was a step up from sort of Dortmund. I just don't understand.
I think he's been a massive disappointment.
Yeah, hasn't
and
he?
at Dortmund, we were talking about this the other day. You know, you look at his final season there. I think it was 36 goal involvements in 39 games. Helped win him the German Cup. I think he scored twice in the final, didn't he? I think he carried them towards Champions League football. When at one point it looked like they were out of the Champions League places. Just had an amazing season. You think he's young, he's English, so he shouldn't be an issue settling in. He should fit into this team. We've wanted him for ages. I actually thought, even though it's a lot of money, 73 million was probably about right for a player of that calibre. And
that as well.
North of 100 12 months earlier, weren't they?
And if you take all that into consideration, and look at the 2 and a bit seasons we've had now, he's been a massive disappointment. Now, some of that's not his fault. You can argue, you know, he's had different managers. We've had a team where under Ralph Rangnick, the whole wheels came off for everyone, and you know, Ronaldo came in, the get up, the setup, change, whatever. But ultimately, you know, has Jadon Sancho been a successful signing for Manchester United? No, he hasn't.
And that's kind of why I get back to this thing. The only way he's going to turn that around and get back in the England squad and just basically up the career maybe he'd want to have is by playing. I mean, it's simple as that. So whether he leaves in January on loan, I mean, that seems to be the obvious option now, right? As you say, maybe it has gone too far. You know, whenever he asks about it, whenever we ask him about it, like happened on Friday, he just sort of. That's actually when you could sort of see him being a little bit like, I don't want to talk about this, which is fair enough. You know what I mean?
We've got a super chat from Hisham El Said. He says, one of the things that the Beckham documentary captured is the feeling around the club at the time. It put the city on its back. It was more than a club. And there you go.
Yeah, have you seen the Beckham documentary?
I haven't yet, actually. Is it 4 episodes?
Yeah.
I'm told it's really good, right?
It is really good. It's... Obviously, with Beckham, there's more than just the football side of things. That was my only gripe with it.
Right.
It kind of didn't focus enough of how good he was at United.
Really, you just wanted 4 instead of episodes of a documentary, just 4 Manchester United games.
I just wanted I wanted the full 90 minutes and the added extra time against Arsenal semi-final replay.
Yeah.
I wanted the last 10 minutes against Bayern Munich, the last 5 minutes against Bayern Munich, and I'll say the second, the last hour against Juventus at the Stade d'Alpe. Yeah. I just wanted that as the documentary. Nothing else, no context, just those games. And I was annoyed that wasn't the case. It was apparently he married a Spice Girl. It said I didn't really know. Yeah, I didn't even know any of that. Let's talk about Mason Greenwood because it's a topic that everyone loves talking about. It's such a happy place to go to. He is still a Manchester United player. He is on loan at Getafe. Yep. He scored his first goal in about 2.5 years the other day.
I didn't see it. Was it a Taffy? What kind of goal?
I saw it. I can't remember it.
Ball squared across the box. He's sort of at the corner of the 6-yard box. Pretty much an open net, right foot. Right. Decent-ish finish, but you'd expect anyone to put it in. It's pretty much an open net.
Right. Okay.
Do you think, or from what you gather, there is a way he comes back to Manchester United?
I do. I'm not saying it's massive, but I do think there is a way. I think the language used at the time was interested, both on and off the record, told that, no, he's not expected to play for United again, not expected, right? Now, I can see it. I'm not saying it will happen, and I think all hell would break loose if it did, or if it was even countenance for all the reasons that basically he's left. But I can see a scenario because you just don't know in football, and I do know they think he's the best player there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like the best player, better than Bruno. That's what's been so difficult, especially for the football side, that they just did not want this to happen, right? Because of how good they think he is. Now we could all have an argument about whether he is that good. I think he's very, very good. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't see enough of his career to see if he could be like Kane or might be in terms of numbers, but he looked really excellent. Don't get me wrong. So I do see a scenario, but I think it is, but the language used is interesting. There was nothing. I mean, I can't remember the statement off by heart. There was nothing in it. I mean, it wasn't. And also, I felt that statement and the way they acted went over. And this might be a legal thing, but they bent over backwards to sort of say that not only that he's innocent. We think. Well, Arnold said I think he's innocent, but like we want to help him sort of restart his career. And I'm thinking, yeah, you can do that, but why are you making that so obvious? So I do see a scenario. I don't think it will necessarily happen, but football is crazy, right? Because of the numbers involved. These sort of elite talents are very difficult. It's homegrown. They did make a bodge of the process. It took too long. I mean, never mind what happened at the end where they basically seemed to have done a U-turn and all the rest of it. It's interesting, in fact. When I saw you, this is honestly true. When I saw you in Las Vegas when I was on that run, I was told then, and I checked it out then, that they were due to make the announcement on that Friday. That was a Tuesday, wasn't it? I think when I saw you on Wednesday. And I couldn't, I couldn't stand it up at the time, and that ended up being one of the stories that they would do blah 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 blah. So I don't know. It's, you know, I just don't see why. If he was 100% not going to ever play for him again, I think they would have made that clear. You know what I mean? They just haven't, have they? And I think maybe they've been advised legally. When I say legal, I don't mean like as in you've got to be careful about law, but maybe their lawyers have said, look, you know, or whoever it is who's advising them, because I don't know who is advising Arnold, because that statement wasn't great and being polite. But you know, don't completely write this off. You never know. There might be who knows.
Don't close the door.
There's got to have been a conversation with Erik ten Hag as well. Yeah. He's got to have wanted him back.
I think all football sides.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to like both. When it kicked off. When the charges were dropped and they did their own internal inquiry? Yeah. I was told then that, you know, the club was sort of, relatively speak, you know, I didn't speak to everyone, but it was like there was a split between football and, you know, other parts of the club. Football basically wanted him back, you know. Which who's football? It's Murta and Ten Hag, basically, isn't it? If you think who are the important people there,
Fletcher maybe.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's only about. It's
not many.
It's not like 15 of them. You know, it's the main. So, you know, if you look back at the summer, maybe he thought Højlund was great because he's going to have Greenwood. You know, as a sort of his number one. You know, maybe that's what he. I don't know that for sure. You know, I'm just voicing an opinion, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought that was a statement. He left the door open a little bit, or ajar, shall we say. Yeah. It didn't seem like unequivocally, no. Yeah. It was just the way it was worded. And I remember you picked up on I think it was the Arnold bullet points, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where it was like, why are you putting these bullet points in? More or less saying he didn't do it. Like, why are you doing that? Like, very weird and unnecessary. You didn't need to include that in any statement. It seemed very odd. Yeah. A couple of super chats or a couple of comments before we...
Yeah, there's a lot of people talking about the Greenwood situation and whether they think he could come back, and a lot of people seem to think that he might. And I think this year that he's going to spend in Spain, I think might soften the kind of public opinion on him a little bit. Oh, he's back in the public eye, but not really. But you know, it's going on, and they accept it. So should we? I think there'll be a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, maybe actually, maybe it is okay for him to play football again. When you see it happening, I think some people who are maybe on the fence will lean towards actually. Well, look, he's playing there. What's the difference?
And the other issue United have, I suppose, not an issue, but he's not been found guilty of anything, right? I know they dropped the charges, but so it's not like it actually was tried. But it's not like he's done anything wrong in the eyes of the law. So you know, that's why they had to be careful, I think, with how they handled it. But I don't know. I mean, it's been so long since I actually saw him play. Where was it? Like January of last year, wasn't it? His last game.
No,
Ranić, right? Of last year, right?
Of 2020, was it 2021?
No, 2022, right?
2022.
Yeah, so it's January of last year. So because that makes it a year and a half since you last played, sort of thing, for you.
Oh,
anyway.
right,
yeah, or more than a year and a half, anyway. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, you know. I suppose you forget how good he is, etc., etc., and how young actually. Still,
I can't.
Does it just say there on?
His last appearance was a 1-0 win in January 2022.
Yeah, 2022. So just over a year.
Ranić was the manager at the time.
I mean, that's
18 months, isn't it?
It just seems a lot longer. Well, I'm sure there'll be more twists and turns in that particular scenario.
He's not going to do it now. Sorry to interrupt. But if
go on.
Well, maybe he will. If he scores, say, like 25 La Liga goals, right? So 25 goals in, you know, their main competition. You know, United will be like, you know what I'm trying to say.
100%.
If he sets the world on
100%.
fire,
and I'm not saying that's what should happen. I'm saying that's what could happen.
Exactly.
I mean, they'll look at it and go, he's a young player who's scoring loads of goals.
Still contracted. You know what I mean?
It's way up. You
know, can we now present this as served his penance for actually something he's not been found legally guilty of? You know what I mean? He's had a year, whatever it is, 2.5 years, 2 years out of the. You know, but I don't know. All I'm saying is, I think it's a slight possibility.
I agree completely. I'm going to wrap it up there, Jamie. Always a pleasure. Next time, though, can you make sure you've got your shirt?
More than lapels.
You've got your shirt.
Buttons next time.
And your sunglasses on. Get them fixed. Go and check out Jamie's writing at The Guardian. Always good stuff there, keeping you updated on what's going on. You know where to find you, Joe Smith, and me, Jay Moy, on the channel. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. This has been an exclusive interview with Jamie Jackson from The Guardian. Thanks for watching.